Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video, and welcome to something a little bit different. Yes, last week we got our first look at some F125 gameplay. So today I thought, obviously, with some of the new LIDAR scan circuits, I was going to compare them up to the laser scans that you get inside iRacing. Now, so far, we've only actually had footage for one track, but also iRacing has inside the game. So today we're heading over to Suzuka. Now, a couple of quick things, obviously, to get out of the way first and foremost. Obviously, the Mercedes Formula 1 car inside iRacing is a few years old now, so it should be slower than the Alpine that is used in Formula 1 as well. I've tried to line up the camera angles as best as I can. This isn't going to be like a graphics comparison or anything like that, simply because the F1 games do a much better job. These games aren't kind of direct rivals in a way. iRacing serves a very, very different purpose to the F1 games as well. But I thought it'd be fun just to kind of take a look at some of these similarities and differences between the two games. And as you can see, obviously straight off the start line, the Formula 1 version has a lot more kind of sponsor boards around it. Obviously, iRacing, they will just go out and scan a circuit when they get a chance to. F1, of course, all of the LiDAR scan tracks inside the game this year are from last year's real-life race weekends with, like, the sponsor boards updated. Well, as you can see then, as we head out onto the circuit, of course, all of the kind of timing tower and everything like that, very, very similar between both games. But immediately as we come into turn one, noticing a difference there, obviously, brake marker boards inside the Formula 1 game, but if we just scroll back on iRacing, obviously the marker boards are actually off of the circuit inside the sim as well. In towards turn one, though, very, very kind of similar. You can see, again, there's a slight changing on the curbing on the outside there. You can see the Formula 1 game has like these updated kind of jagged outer curbs as well, but the inner curbs look very, very similar. If anything, there's actually a lot more detail on them on the iRacing version as well. You know, they've got a lot more tyre marks and things like that. And then as we make our way in towards turn two as well, you can see that, again, they're pretty similar between the two titles there. Again, on the exit, you got a little bit more AstroTurf on the iRacing version. On the F1 version, again, you've kind of got those more jagged curves, but you can definitely see, you know, it feels like both of them are very, very accurate and very, very similar as well. As we make our way up in towards the next couple of corners, though, you'll actually see that there's slightly different kind of a depth behind the curbs and the white lines as well. So on the F1 game, you can see a noticeable amount of kind of tarmac between the white line and where the curb begins. You can also see there's a little bit of AstroTurf as well that runs the other side of the curb up through a large portion of it. iRacing doesn't have that whatsoever. It is just white line, the tiniest little margin as well, and then obviously just curbing with no AstroTurf or anything like that on the inside. Now, as you can actually see as well, though, again, not kind of the most important thing, but a lot more grip in the iRacing F1 car through the S's. Yes, obviously it's not a perfect comparison because the Cody's one was, I think, done by an AI, and obviously the iRacing one was done by myself, so, you know, I'll be able to carry a bit more speed into the corners and things like that than you can in F1. Again, actually, you know, another point for Cody's on this one in EA is you can see this kind of clear definition of the tarmac change. That doesn't exist on the iRacing version as well. Next couple of corners, though, again, apart from kind of the little bits and pieces we've mentioned already, no real other changes there. Seems like the wall, I don't know, again, whether it's just kind of like the camera perspective or what, but it seems like the wall actually on the outside is a little bit further away inside iRacing than it is on the Formula 1 game as well. But again, you know, on the other side, you've kind of got that same control tower or timing tower or camera tower, whatever it might be, in this certain situation. The curbs as well, a lot flatter on the exit, and again, you can definitely see where things have been resurfaced on the EA version than what you get on the iRacing version. The next big thing I noticed, though, was the changing of the curbs on the inside of Degner 1 there. The F1 one, flat, easy, you know, you can basically obviously go comfortably over that with no real problems. The iRacing one, on the other hand, very, very much unsettles the car. You can see I took a lot of curb this time round, and you can really feel kind of the car bounce out on underneath you. So it's going to be interesting, you know, once we kind of get full access to the game, as to whether, kind of those differences stay. Again, if you have a look, obviously, on the outside curb through there, iRacing's actually has got a bit more runoff, as you can see. So you've obviously got the same curbing. Again, you've got obviously these jagged curbs of the kind of more modern version of Suzuka, but I think actually, yeah, iRacing is probably more forgiving through the kind of the transition between the two Degnas as well there. And again, it's so impressive. Even when you look in the background, you're looking at this hill that I believe is out by the short circuit pit lane, just how similar it looks in both games. The topography around the venue has been done really well in both games as well there. And obviously, as we make our way around the circuit as well, we'll kind of see more and more of this through those corners. Again, more sponsor boards, things like that on the F1 version as you go down through the tunnel. You can also see there's a Portaloo, I believe, next to, again, another, I believe it's a camera tower under the hairpin as well there. As you make your way, though, up in towards the next couple of corners, of course, again, you can actually see, it feels like iRacing's hairpin is more cambered than the F1 layout as well. So it kind of feels like, yeah, the circuit kind of leans in more on the outside in, but then also the curbing on the inside is far more aggressive. You always kind of want to avoid that curb anyway on the inside on previous F1 games as well, but definitely seems to be more and more strict. And again, iRacing just so much more detail on those curbs as well, of tyre marks, lockups, and things like that. And obviously, even the white lines as well, look very much kind of race worn. The F1 version, you can see there's a little bit of a kind of smear almost, if you will, but nowhere near kind of the same level of detail on the circuit. But off the circuit, again, you've kind of got this reference point there of the camera tower, but obviously a huge amount of fans and things like that are on the F1 version. A lot of the trees, the placement of the trees is very similar in both games as well. But of course, the best bit about Suzuka inside F1 25 is obviously those cherry blossoms as well there. And of course, a lot more stands and things like that. Weirdly, iRacing's got this stand here that clearly doesn't exist anymore for obviously when Cody's went to scan the circuit. And again, the chicane that we don't use, but both of them have got that detailed very nicely as well. That iRacing putting some cones down, F1 hopefully knowing which direction you're going to need to be going. Again, though, you can see braking marker boards on the circuit on the F1 version. iRacing, again, nothing like that. So I always find on iRacing very difficult to spot your marker down in towards 130R. You have obviously got that little bit of concrete on the outside, but yeah, when you're coming in at 180 miles an hour, very difficult to kind of spot it on the way in there. And again, you can see on the F1 25 version those beautiful cherry blossoms as well. But again, on iRacing, that grandstand over there seems to have been replaced by just kind of a general spectator area. A lot of grandstands around the old version of Suzuka that clearly aren't there anymore, which is very fascinating. And again, more cherry blossoms on the F1 game. And again, you can see the curbing on the exit. Very similar, actually, this time around between the two. I think that probably hasn't changed at all between these two scans. But again, you've kind of got more AstroTurf, but less curb on the iRacing version, and more curb and obviously less AstroTurf on the F1 25 version as well. This was definitely, again, one of the most interesting bits that I found as well, was obviously having a look at the old pit lane as well, or the short circuit pit lane, I should say. You can obviously see, again, very similar. All the buildings are there on both of the games as well. But then as you come actually past that, you have a look on the left-hand side there, past the sponsor board. Again, another grandstand that clearly just doesn't exist anymore. But just how similar, again, the topography is between both of these games is absolutely fantastic. iRacing is kind of viewed as the benchmark. So the fact that the F1 game has been able to compete so well with it, I think is, a really good sign as well, because, iRacing, everybody loves the circuit models that they have inside the game. Again, seems like iRacing got a little bit more curbing through the Casio triangle there. But yeah, the F1 game, I think is obviously, because it's a more modern layout, is a bit more accurate. And then if we actually just take a quick look at the curbing on the exit, seems like the F1 game might have slightly more runoff if you run slightly wide through the transition of the Casio triangle, but making your run then back towards the pit lane. You can see, you know, this circuit isn't changed very often or anything like that. The F1 lap was on F125 was a bit quicker, but definitely has got a lot more straight line speed. But the iRacing version, the car seems to carry a bit more through the corners. Like I said, it's not a completely accurate kind of, you know, this isn't an apples for apples comparison between the two games in that sense, but was just really, really interesting to kind of have a look as well. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. Let me know which game you prefer as well down in the comments below, because yeah, this has been a really, really fun little video just to have a bit of a look through. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Get yourself subscribed for more F125 content. I've got another comparison video coming out very soon between F125 and F124. But yeah, that's going to do us for this one, and we'll be back very soon with more Formula 1 content.